much, Margaret. So good morning, everyone. Good morning to Transportation Safety Meeting. Welcome to the early morning session of our meeting that we have once a year. So hopefully everybody's ready to go and rearing here early in the morning instead of our normal time. So one thing to note as a reminder, please make sure your mics are on and clearly state your name before speaking to ensure that everyone in the members and the audience can hear you. When you're not speaking, please make sure that you're muted so there's not feedback noise as well. Because this is a virtual meeting, a roll call will need to take place for each item on the agenda. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all the members. Margaret, could you please facilitate the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. When I call your name, please unmute and indicate your attendance. Carrie Wilcoxon. Shane Kiso.
Shane's here.
Ward Stanford. John Willett.
Present.
Raymond Hung. Nick Russo.
I'm here.
Chris Salas.
Present.
Aaron Pinkerton.
Present.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Tony Abbo.
Present.
Matthew Reed.
Present.
Woody Scouten. And I believe it's Ben Bitter for Rodolfo Lopez. Is that accurate?
Yes, Ben Bitter's here.
Thank you. Welcome. Maza Maradovich.
Here.
Ryan Hudson. Brandon Forey.
Present.
Carl
Present.
Langford. Tara Harmon. Mohammed Youssef.
Present.
David Smith.
Here.
Martin Lucero for Dana Ossiani.
Here, present.
Thank you. Adrian Ruiz. Jeff King.
Jeff King is here.
Thank you. Robert Gray. Captain David Cates. And Alberto Gutierrez. Did I miss anybody that may have joined while we were calling roll for call to order?
Margaret, this is Ward Stanford with Avondale. I'm here.
Great, Ward. I got you down. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, we have met quorum.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I am here. Sorry, I dropped the call somehow shortly.
I've got you noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So the next item of the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the Transportation Safety Committee teleconference was held via Zoom on September 28th of 2021. Does any members have any comments or revisions to these meeting minutes that were sent out earlier? Hearing none, could I have a motion to recommend approval of the meeting minutes from September 28th, 2021?
Chair, this is Shane, City of AJ. I move that we pass the September 28th, 2021 minutes.
Thank you, Shane. Could I have a second?
This is Nick from El Mirage. I second that.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Nick. So now we do need to have a call for motion. So for those, please say if you're in favor, opposing, or abstaining. Margaret, could you please take the roll call?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Please unmute when I call your name and state your vote. Carrie Wilcoxon. Shane Kiso.
Aye.
Ward Stanford.
Aye.
John Willett.
Aye. Sorry, I'm slow.
That's okay. Raymond Hung. Nick Russo,
Aye.
Chris Salas,
Aye.
Aaron Pinkerton,
Aye.
Tony Ebo,
Sorry about that. Looking for the unmute button.
no problem, Tony, thank you. Matthew Reed,
Aye.
Woody Scouten, Ben Bitter,
Aye.
thank you. Maza Maradovich,
Aye.
Ryan Hudson, Brandon Forey, Brandon Forey,
Aye. I was just about to say hitting Alt-A makes it very handy, and then I stumbled on my own action.
understood, thank you. Carl Langford,
Aye.
Tara Harmon, Mohammed Youssef,
Aye.
David Smith,
Aye.
Martin Lucero,
Aye.
Kathy Hollow,
Aye.
Adrian Ruiz, Jeffrey King,
I'm a non-voting member.
thank you, Jeff. Robert Gray, Captain David Cates, and Alberto Gutier. Mr. Chair, the vote is unanimous with one abstention. The motion passes.
Thank you, Margaret. Our next item on the agenda is the call to audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted starting time for the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, have we received any public comments? If so, could you please read them at this time?
Mr. Chair, no public comments have been received for this item or any other agenda item.
Thank you very much for that information. With that, we will move on to item agenda number 4, which is our program manager's report. Margaret, can you please provide that report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. I have a very, very brief report. We want to get down to our business of today. The first, I will refer you to attachment 1, which is our meeting schedule for 2022. Can't believe it's already 2022, but here we are. As you can see, we are still planning on holding our Transportation Safety Committee meetings every 4th Tuesday of the odd months, with exception of November, which we hold it the 3rd week to avoid the Thanksgiving holiday. And we'll see how today's meeting goes. We may move it up to 9. We'll see how things work out, but we will probably be reviewing at least the road safety program projects next November as well. So stay tuned for that. But here is our 2022 schedule for next year. I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. I'm going to have both Mohammed and Chris give updates on some key projects here. But one note that I did want to make regarding the Safe Routes to School studies, we still have not received funding authorization from ADOT yet, so those will be on hold. We have come up with a strategy to get all those studies done next spring if need be. So those of you that do have Safe Routes to School studies that are in the hopper, we are making plans for that and keeping close track on that authorization. So at this time, I'm going to have Chris unmute and have him give a very, very brief update on where we're at with the CME Arizona pedestrian bicycle safety education and enforcement program. Chris?
Thanks, Margaret, and thanks Transportation Safety Committee for your time today. So CME AZ, we are approaching the end of the calendar year, of course, and we're hoping to have, or we're planning to have our final reports from our media consultant by the end of the year regarding ad performance, which we've been having monthly meetings with our consultants as well, reviewing our performance for the campaign. And it's been going very well. Our impressions, our views, and our click-through rates to get eyes on our website have been doing really well, tracking great progress, especially with the Spanish-speaking population. Surveys, the next survey round should be going live, hopefully within the next week, if not early next week. And that'll only be live for another week or so until we get enough responses for a statistically valid survey. And the pilot enforcement activities are all wrapped up. We are still reviewing those results, the data that they collected, but we're looking forward to seeing all of that and wrapping all this up. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Chris. Now, Mohammed, if you could unmute and give us a brief update on the predictive safety framework.
Sure. Thank you, Margaret. Good morning, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. So yes, we are doing good progress on the predictive safety framework. The gist of the work on task 3, which is one of the most important part of this project, has already been completed, and it is under review by the TAC members. One thing I wanted to mention about that, thanks to all the member agencies that have participated in the survey that we previously dispatched to get feedback on roadway and traffic count data from the local agencies. We would like to request at this time to some of the other agencies to respond to the survey if you can at your earliest convenience. That will give us some more insights and will help us to wrap up task 4. Especially we are looking forward to responses from City of Phoenix, City of Mesa, Tempe, and some other cities in the MAG region. So we'll make sure to follow up on that one. Yeah, that's the update on the predictive safety framework project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. And I believe, Mr. Chair, that completes our report for this meeting.
Thank you very much for the report, Margaret, Chris, and Mohammed. If you have any questions specifically, please go ahead and contact the MAG staff after this meeting regarding questions for the report. Due to time, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 5 today, which is our Transportation Alternatives Non-Infrastructure Safe Routes to School project. So this item is on the agenda for information, discussion, and possible action. MAG receives federal funds for transportation alternatives, or TA, via Surface Transportation Block Grant. These funds can be used to fund safe routes to school projects and activities, including non-infrastructure safe route to school projects. MAG issued a call for the project applications back in August of this year. MAG staff will provide an overview of the program and the projects. Member agency staff will provide a brief 5-minute presentation on each of their projects. Members of the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions on each proposed project and provide their final evaluation scores via email. So at this point, we'll turn it over to the MAG staff and the presenters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. This year's Safe Routes to School call for projects included an available amount of $400,000, which is what our sub-allocation for this funding is to the MAG region. We received 3 applications from 2 agencies for Safe Routes to School studies at 4 schools. The request total is a little over $150,000 at $156,915, which means we have $243,085 remaining. And at the end of the presentations, and when we go to prior to the possible action, we will discuss what we want to do moving forward. We have a couple of options that the committee can consider for that. We will move forward now with some presentations, first from the town of Buckeye and then from Gilbert. So John Willett, if you would please unmute, I will go ahead and advance to your slides.
Awesome. Thank you, Margaret. I'm unmuted, obviously, because you can hear me. Good morning, everybody. This is John with the City of Buckeye. Our first project is in the Liberty School District. Due to our size, we have several school districts. So what's occurred is I'll start with the top picture, which is the one in blue. It's an existing elementary school known as Freedom Elementary. It's, I don't know if I can drive or not, probably not. It's the light blue area highlighted. The key reason why we've submitted this school for a safe route is immediately to the west of the school is a brand new subdivision being constructed. And that subdivision will complete Sundance Parkway that goes right through the middle of the subdivision and goes right by the elementary school. And we feel with the completion of that roadway that more students are going to walk from the west side of the school over towards this new, the existing elementary school. So we like to be evaluated to make sure we've identified the proper locations for the students to walk. One thing that needs to be installed is, because it doesn't exist today, which is not part of this project, but just need to mention it, is the school flasher sign for eastbound traffic on Sundance, because there wasn't one before, because nobody could come from the west to go eastbound because the road dead ended. So that's the first school. The second school is the school just to the south. It's a brand new school in the Blue Horizon subdivision, which is the southwest quadrant of Jackrabbit and Van Buren. It's the red highlighted dashed area is the brand new elementary school. Like I said, it just opened this fall. And so we really don't know how the students are walking currently, because before the school opened, they were all bused to another school. In fact, they may have been bused to the blue one up above. So there is a school crossing pretty much right about where the arrow is pointing at. You know, the current crossing, I've estimated that to be about 50 students from when we observed it when it first opened. And so we just want to make sure and it is a marked crosswalk right at that location. We had that put in for the plans, for the improvements. We do have the school flashers up on Blue Horizon Parkway. They were put in as part of the school improvements. There's street lighting on both of these roads, both projects. So that's pretty much both those schools in a nutshell. I put them together because it is the same school district. I do have the concurrence from the school and the principals that they would like something done. So that's it for this one. I can answer any questions, or we can go on to the next school.
We can go ahead with questions before we go on to the next school. Any questions from committee members? All right, then we will move.
With the city of Surprise.
Okay.
Just real quick, have you spoken with the school district to kind of see if they had an estimate of how many kids were coming from the west? I know you say you don't know how they were getting there, but is there at least an estimation that might be able to help you kind of project the population that you might be able to capture?
Yeah, well, we anticipate, Martine, yeah, good question. We do anticipate by the time we do the study, all of that subdivision, that gray area will be built. And so when we get to that point, we'll have a really good idea of how many students are coming from the west. Because I think this is a 24 school year or study timeframe. So all that subdivision should be finished. And we should have a really good idea. And we'll be able to get that information from the school district. And the observations prior to when the study occurs, I could be able to go out there and observe how many kids or students are basically walking back and forth.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, this is Brandon Forey with the City of Peoria. I was just curious, John, if you could touch very briefly on how you would anticipate each of the 5 E's to be addressed with these studies. And not to go too much detail, but for example, what kind of partnerships do you have with your police department? What kind of support do you have locally from the school or volunteers? Any initial ideas for how to outreach to the students to get them to use the correct walking routes and to use the crossings, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so good comments, Brandon. Each school, we have SRO officers at all the schools. They touch base at the schools on a regular basis. So PD is definitely involved. Both the school district has email blasts and all that they get information out to the parents. I'll work with them to make sure they, either post notices and remind the kids every day. They do put staff out there to help monitor the children getting to and from the schools and walking along the corridor. As far as the organizations, I don't know if the HOAs do something, but I can check into that prior to our study to make sure we have volunteers to help, either what's parents who aren't employed or have the ability to help with their students getting to and from the school. See what else. I guess that's probably the key ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions for John on the Liberty District Safe Routes to School studies? With that, we'll move forward to your second application, John.
Okay, this is in our northern part of the city. It is the Festival School District. The unique part about this is actually in the, Festival Subdivision. It is the Wickenburg School District. So obviously it's a little challenging for us because Wickenburg's about another 15 miles north of here. The other uniqueness for this is Festival is primarily an active adult community, which is that blue box area I have highlighted. The school is west on the east side of Canyon Springs Boulevard, which is a major north-south road that serves the Festival community and comes in off of Sun Valley Parkway. Those of you who aren't familiar with this area, Sun Valley Parkway is the extension of Bell Road out of Surprise with a slight horizontal alignment shift to the north. The school is located more in the southern end of that big red area I've identified. I've been out there to observe this school. There are several children who walk to the school. The one thing why we brought this up is most of the students who served this school or went to the school were basically from Beardsley Parkway south to Sun Valley Parkway. However, there is a lot more single family homes being built north of Beardsley Parkway, which is the extension of that red area. And we've heard from parents who, actually some staff live out there and said, hey, the kids are going to walk down that road, which is Desert Vista Boulevard, which goes by the school, then turns and goes north-south by that speed limit 25 sign you can kind of barely see. There are 3 crossings of that Desert Vista Boulevard that serve the school. One's a little farther north of the school, and they walk along the west side to get to the school. There are several parents who drop their kids off in front of the school. And apparently with this open enrollment, we have some children who come from about 20 miles away to attend the school. They come from the Tartesso area over off of Sun Valley Parkway, which is interesting because there is a Tartesso elementary school. But my gut feel is they live in Tartesso and work in Surprise, the parents. So they drop their children off here to go to school. Let's see what else to talk to you about. Beardsley Parkway currently does not extend east out of the city of Buckeye into Surprise. It pretty much dead ends right at that red boundary line. Will it go eventually? Yes, it will go eventually, but not prior to the study occurring. What else? Again, SRO is assigned to the school. They check in on a regular basis. There is a Buckeye police substation located in the fire department, the fire station in the Festival area. This school does do pretty active email blasts to their students and the families. Enforcement, there's not a speeding concern up and down Desert Vista Boulevard, but the law enforcement, the SROs out there, keep an eye on that. Encouragement. I mean, most of the kids do kind of listen. I mean, the parents want to get their children safely across the road. I had a concern early when the elementary school asked me to come out and says, "Hey, we have cars queuing up out of our parking lot getting dropped off. Can you come out and look at it?" And it's interesting. It's a perspective. And Brandon may and Martine may get a kick out of this, and some of the other folks dealing with schools. Their queuing out of their parking lot was maybe 3 cars. And it briefly happened for like 30 seconds. And I have a charter school where it queues up for over 1.5 miles. And so it's this perspective of their queuing problem. So it was just kind of interesting. So sorry to digress there, but any questions on this one? I'm finished, sorry.
You fell just within your 5 minutes, so.
Yes, I get bonus points.
Any questions on this application? All right, thank you, John.
Awesome, thank you, everybody.
With that, we will move on. Erin Pinkerton, if you could kindly unmute and speak to your project application.
Certainly. So what we have here is Rice Elementary School, and this is its 2nd year running. The principal is very active in the neighborhood community, contacting. She actually really wanted us to apply last year for her school. I was a bad guy and said no. I want you to at least have some more information as far as how many bikes and peds. We need at least a year behind us. So this is the 2nd year running. They have, as you can see, there are about 30 peds and bikes that walk regularly. Right now, they're going down to the intersection of Ocotillo and Sailor Way. For the most part, they're pretty good about using the crosswalk there. It's as developed. You can see that area is all around the school is in the process of being developed, and will be developed here shortly. The homes are filling up fast. So in talking with the school, they really don't have a great idea where their boundary for white biking and walking consists. And they're nervous to kind of set a boundary. It's kind of right now, it's kind of anybody that's coming to the school, they welcome to bike, they encourage to bike. A lot of it's just kind of that local area right adjacent to it is where all the school kids are coming from primarily. If you take Ocotillo Road continuing east, it goes into kind of more County Island, larger lots for about 1.5 miles, and then dead ends. Oh, I guess the last half mile is another housing community. And then it dead ends for right now. So we generally have the volumes and the speeds are not too bad around here. They're really looking at getting a better idea of how to encourage and how to some of those nuances of the study will help them tailor to. The principal was really eager to kind of understand what she does. She wants to learn, wants to be integrated in the process and really be that champion. She also has some volunteers that are eager to be involved to improve the safety. Right now, we don't have a crosswalk north of Ocotillo as the area is being developed. And we didn't want to encourage. There isn't like a sidewalk to the north of the school at this time. It's in the process of all getting developed and will be. So in the future, there will be a crosswalk up there as well. Let's see, that's primarily the gist of this one. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Erin from committee members? All right, with that, we can move on. Let me first ask, do members of the committee do members of the committee have evaluation sheets that they have amended during the presentations that you have been provided during the meeting at this time? All right, that being said, we may not need to take a break. We will definitely for the RSP. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is ask Chris to go ahead and share his screen with the evaluation scores and ranking. So I'll stop sharing, Chris.
One moment. I need to get it on my local drive, I think.
So, Mr. Chair, what I think we might do, since Chris doesn't have that queued up yet, I guess we had expected potentially some amended evaluations to come in, and that not being the case, why don't we take a brief 10-minute break, and we can we'll have that up at that point. So at 9:13, if you want to go get some water, some coffee, some tea.
That sounds great. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank
We'll
you.
see everybody, hear everybody back here in 10 minutes. Thank you all.
All right, I'm gonna do quick check through. Like,
Margaret, I'm sorry, this is Raymond with Chandler. I come in a little bit late. I just want to let you know.
okay, I will mark you down for your attendance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, whenever you're ready, you might want to zoom in a little bit. So you're just showing, might be a little tough because
Right.
we have all that space over there on the right-hand side.
Yeah, let me see. I'll try to I'll unshare and then try to share it on my other monitor to see if it helps. All right. Is this any better?
We're not seeing your screen.
Okay. I will go back to the other one then.
Okay, I think we
Oh
can.
wait, no, oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. Now you can see it, correct?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay, so with Buckeyes, 2 projects, and Gilbert's 1. We see the totals were 87, 76, and 66 respectively. Buckeyes first project a bit larger, 78,500. And then Buckeyes second and Gilbert's a little over 39,000 requested, of a total available of 400,000. And we had no support activity requests this year. So with that, Buckeyes first project for Freedom and Blue Horizons ranked first, Festival Foothills ranked second, and Rice Elementary ranked third. And thank you, I did receive a couple score updates during the break as well. So thank you for those.
Yes, thank you, members of the committee. So Chris, if you could scroll down just a little bit so we can see the amount remaining. It should be the same as I had announced or I had reported earlier.
Did you need me to take out the sport activity remaining?
Yes, so this means we have a little over 240,000 remaining. So in the past, the couple options that were in front of the committee were to number 1, hold a second call for projects, likely in the February 2022 timeframe. We have found historically that the call for projects in August puts our local agencies in a little bit of a time crunch, seeing as though school has just started at that point. So I have had a couple of inquiries into Safe Routes to School funding. And so I know that there are a couple agencies that will probably put in for a second call for projects. The other option that we've had in the past is to Patrick, we have Patrick Stone with us today to provide us some guidance as far as the tip is concerned. The other option has been in the past to basically return that sub-allocation, that portion of the sub-allocation back for the TA bicycle and pedestrian type projects. And I believe, Patrick, that would be, well, maybe you could explain what would happen there.
Thanks, Margaret. Good morning, members of the committee, Mr. Chair. Yeah, what we would end up doing is as Margaret identified, the 243,000 that's unprogrammed. We are currently at the same time we're running the bike ped call for fiscal year 25. And with other years as well, there's a substantial underfunding. We've received significantly more project requests than we had funding available. So obviously, if the funding is unused by Safe Routes to Schools, it would go towards those types of projects.
So are there any questions on this? And I don't know that we need to keep the rankings up. You could go ahead and stop sharing, Chris, unless somebody has a question regarding this.
Margaret?
Yes.
Just real quick, just was wondering, what was the total that was kind of anticipated that you would get on a further request? Is it significant, or is it something that can wait for the next round of projects for Safe Routes to School? I just know sometimes it's a little hard for those communities to wait when there's a significant need, and I know it would require a second call, but just was kind of interested to see if there was if we should wait on that and allow them to go through that call, or if it was just, you know, appropriate just to move forward with just moving those to bike ped projects.
I know that there's 2 local agencies that had reached out to me. I do not know how many schools that they would be putting in for, so it's a little hard for me to give you a very accurate assessment of what that might be. But you know, let's just say that they have 1 school each. That would be, you know, somewhere in the $80,000 range. If one of them has more than 1 school, of course, it would be more than that. So that's the best I can do, Martin, to answer your question.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my screen. All right. If there isn't any further discussion.
Margaret, this is Carl here. I do have another question. Maybe this is one that Patrick needs to answer as well. Scenario question. Let's say we do a second call for projects, and in that second call of projects, we get 120,000 requested. That would still leave a balance of, I forget the exact number, but 100,000 or so. What then would happen with that funding at that time, or what are options?
Carl, thanks. Great question. I would tend to say, if we've gone through a second call for that year, at that point, most likely the thought would be to leverage those dollars back into the 25 program and reallocate those to other projects, potentially as part of closeout in that fiscal year as well.
Okay, so I guess maybe a follow-up question. It would get used in projects, not necessarily specifically to the bike and ped projects that we're talking about potentially now, correct?
Correct. And the challenge is, and this is the plus and the minus of programming this way, because we do have to program a few years out to allow agencies to develop those projects and get them delivered. So at this point, we're funding and doing the call for the 25 bike and ped projects that'll actually go to regional council, hopefully in January. So at that point, we've kind of set what those projects are going to be, and we're done at that point. So if we come later next year in calendar year 22, we do a subsequent call for Safe Routes to School, get hopefully a few good projects. Whatever's left, we've already gone past the call for the bike ped, so we would just fund those dollars into 25. Often what we actually see in closeout, for those, shameless plug, that closeout's going on right now, we get requests across the spectrum. So we get requests for all kinds of projects that may be running short, need additional help. Bike ped projects are in there as well. So there would certainly be an opportunity in 25 to fund a project.
Thank you for that clarification.
Oh, not a problem. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that insight. All right. Mr. Chair, we could, if we could go, this item is on your agenda for action to recommend the approval of a list of projects to be funded with the available TA non-infrastructure safe routes to school funds for fiscal year 2025.
Margaret, real quick, this is John with the City of Buckeye. Can we, and maybe Patrick has to weigh in on this, can we take this 243,000 and split it and say we want to allocate 120 to a February call for some safe routes to schools, and then the other 120 goes to the bike and ped program?
John, it's something we could do. I would say at this point, an action probably doesn't need to be taken by the committee today. On the residual funding. If the thought is to go do a subsequent call, I would at this point just put the full amount out there. You don't want to inadvertently miss out on some great projects, some safe routes projects that could come in. I'd rather just let the call go forward, put the full 240 out there. Maybe some other agencies, some other schools decide that they've identified a need and want to come in. So, put the maximum funding out there. It's much easier for me on the back end to deal with the residual funds versus inadvertently on the front end, splitting it and then say, boy, I wish I had left another 50,000 over in the safe routes bucket. But it's a great point.
Thank you. So at this time, and Margaret, maybe clarify, at this moment, we have an action to recommend the list, the 3 projects that we had presented, to be funded with the available TA infrastructure funds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So any further discussions from the committee members, please say so. Otherwise, we are looking for someone to make a motion on this action.
I'll make a motion.
This is Martin Lewis.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to make a motion, but I can second. It's fine.
So we don't talk on top of each other. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to recommend approval of the list of projects that were presented.
And Martin Lucero, I'll second that motion.
Excellent. Thank you both. So we have a motion from Kathy and a second from Martine. At this point, we do need to make a roll call. Margaret, can you do a call on the action?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Please unmute when I call your name and indicate your vote. Carrie Wilcoxon? Shane Kiso?
Aye.
Ward Stanford?
Aye.
John Willett?
Aye.
Raymond Hong?
I was late for the presentation, so I'm not going to vote this time.
Thank you, Raymond. Nick Russo?
Aye.
Chris Salas? Chris Salas? Aaron Pinkerton?
Aye.
Tony Abbo?
Aye.
Matthew Reed?
Aye.
Woody Scouten? Ben Bitter?
Aye.
Ryan Hudson? Brandon Forey?
Aye.
Carl Langford?
Aye.
Tara Harmon? Mohammed Youssef?
Aye.
David Smith? David Smith, Martin Lucero,
Aye.
Kathy Hollow,
Aye.
Adrian Ruiz, all right, and Jeff King abstains.
Yes, ma'am.
Robert Gray, Captain David Cates, and Alberto Gutierrez.
Margaret,
Okay.
this is Mazen. This is Mazen Radovich. I'm here. Aye.
I thought I called you. My apologies, Mazen. I do also
That's
want to.
okay.
I do also want to go back to Chris Solis. Ben Bitter,
Aye.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes with 2 abstentions. And just to note that we do still have quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So one question I have, Margaret, at this time, as far as the remaining funds, is there anything we need to decide or specifically today?
No, we do not.
Okay, very good. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda. This item is our roadway safety program projects. So MAG initiated the roadway safety program, or RSP, in 2019 to be administered by MAG to supplement the state's Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP program, and assist with providing additional funding in the short term. MAG issued a call for project applications in August of this year to request fiscal year 2023 RSP funds. MAG staff will provide an overview of the program and projects, and then member agency staff will provide a brief 5-minute presentation on each of their projects. Members of the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions on each proposed project and provide their final evaluation scores via email. So at this time, we turn it back over to MAG staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. Just a quick overview of our program this year. We had a little over $1.8 million available. This year, we received 15 applications from 6 agencies for a total request of almost $4.5 million. We'll be hearing some presentations by Carefree, Gilbert, Glendale, Peoria, Phoenix, and Queen Creek. And I just wanted to provide just a quick graphic that you see here on the right-hand side of the screen. This kind of encapsulates really the projects that you're going to be hearing about today. These are the FHWA proven safety countermeasures with some information on their potential reductions and some other good information that we can get from the FHWA source. I also like to note that just recently they have updated the crash modification clearinghouse, as well as there are some new items in their proven safety countermeasures. So when you get a chance, you might want to take a look at that, and we might highlight some of those things in next year's meetings. Before we move on to presentations, I thought this would be interesting to show the committee on where we were at when we first issued the call for projects in our inaugural year of 2019 to now for what we have. And it looks like we have, gradually increased in the amounts that were requested. Not all the same agencies. There are a few that submit applications annually, but overall we've had a total of 11 agencies submitted region-wide throughout the 2019 call through this current call. And that ranged from rural to urban. So that's encouraging as well. Part of the safety plan, safe system and action implementation, we have a continued and enhanced focus on road safety assessments, local agency safety studies, as well as safe routes to school studies and things like that, that will help to queue up projects for funding through the RSP program. I'd like to also note that the work that Mohammed's doing in the predictive safety framework, as well as a project that we're going to be discussing quite a bit next year, the Regional Safety Implementation Toolkit, will also help establish the need for extended and increased RSP funding. So with that, we can move on to presentations. We have Mark from Carefree. If you would please unmute and provide a committee a presentation. And I have been timing, so I'll let you know if I need to virtually pull you off the stage.
Thanks, Margaret and committee members. My name is Mark Millstone. I'm the town engineer in Carefree. I would like to set up the aerial just to start with. So the roadway that is running from the northwest to the southeast is Cave Creek Road. And the roadway that's running from north to south is Tom Darlington Drive. And those are our only two arterials within town. And that's important for a reason I'll get into a little bit later. So what we're looking for during this presentation is 3 locations for added crosswalks. The one at Tom Darlington and Cave Creek Road, which is going to have 4 at-grade crossings across each leg. And then the next one running further south is Hoe Road. This is an existing crosswalk, which we're going to reconstruct. We're going to raise it, and we're going to put some RRFBs, which are the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And additionally, further to the south, our third crosswalk is at Wampum Way. Again, this is going to be a raised crosswalk with RRFBs. Now, I think I'm going to go into the data and statistics just so everybody's on the same page. We're looking at a request of just under $312,000 with a local match that's paid for design. We have 3.2 million vehicle miles, B over C ratio of just under 3 to 1. We have 23 total crashes with 7 being addressed, including 1 bicycle and 6 cars. As far as the region, the numbers that stand out are the disability ratio and the minority ratio, which is about double to the region, as well as the aged ratio of greater than 65. So we're about 4 times larger than the regional ratio for groups of people over 65. Moving on, we did a study with in-person stakeholders, town council, and the general public. We used local screening because we had a high number of related crashes based on in-house screening, citizens' complaints, and near misses. And now I'd like to address the newest data that just came in Sunday night from a resident, whereby they talked about 1 near miss at Hoe Road, as well as a actual pedestrian strike or a double pedestrian strike also at Hoe Road within the last 2 weeks. So it gets more urgent, as we can see. We're talking about fixing the safe connections between residential and high traffic areas. So as I talked about before, if you look at the 2 arterials, on the north side of Cave Creek Road and on the west side of Tom Darlington Drive, we have our high predominance of apartments, townhouses, and what have you. And to add insult to injury, if you look at the lower central part of the aerial, the large square building is our US Post Office. And as I'm sure you're probably not aware, but the post office does not deliver mail in Carefree. So about 80% of our residents need to cross over one or the other of our arterials daily to get their mail. That's one of the reasons why it's really important. The second reason is that we don't have a real estate tax structure. So we get very little funding annually, and it's very hard pressed to send it to needs that aren't normal, like striping and sign replacement. So whenever we get funding from people like MAG, it's a great improvement and allows us to do more things that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. And then the final thing is our speed reduction measures to improve vulnerable modes of safety. So this would be our raised crosswalks that we're talking about, as well as our curb bulb outs, which would reduce the traffic to one lane so that our pedestrians would only need to cross one lane to get across the roadway. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions from committee members?
Aaron Pinkerton with Gilbert, remind me, Mark, what's the speed through here?
I'm sorry, Aaron, I couldn't make that out.
What's the speed limit through the section?
Pretty much 35.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from committee members before we move on to Gilbert? All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron Pinkerton, I assume you're going to present these projects?
I am.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is an area that we've seen a lot of growth, both in complaints and in overall traffic volumes along Rig Road, whether it be from development areas in Gilbert or Queen Creek or Santan. The volume has increased. Just to the west, 1 mile, there's a high school. So we get a lot of parents that are concerned with their kids making this left turn movement onto Riggs. There was one fatality. Unfortunately, it was a younger girl and several other accidents. We have done a few other left turn offset improvements with other locations, and we're still kind of evaluating. It appears that they have reduced traffic, but it's reduced incidents. It's still hard to tell with just the few years of data we have. We've done some of the signal timing adjustment here to extend the protected left phase as much as we can. We still feel it's a strong candidate for a negative left turn offset improvement to align those left turns. Anytime you get a truck or SUV, then you can't clearly see the through movement well enough. And so we're seeing quite a few left turn crashes. This one, you may have noticed in my report, I did use counts crash data from 2021. Originally, I was going to do just 2021 and not half years back and forth, but it was requested to extend it out half 21 and a half because to get a full 5 years. The reason why I did that, because 2021 already had more crashes than other years. So we've definitely seen a major uptick in the crashes at this location. Let's see. If we want to go ahead and go to the next slide. The way we looked at our projects is we have last year, the assistant traffic engineer, Clint Emery, created a prioritization process that we evaluate all of our signalized and unsignalized intersections. The signalized, unsignalized is slightly modified to this. So we look at, this is showing there as a prioritization process. Each of these categories have equations different to get down to the actual methodology. Okay, how are we calculating congestion? We use either level of service or volumes. And it kind of goes through. The crash history is similar to MAG. There's a rating if it's a fatality versus non-injury. and goes through that. And then we have to get the primary tier, and then to get the secondary tier of, okay, is there development that's contributing? Are there other factors that we need to take into consideration? This project from our signalized projects was ranked 12th of all of our top signalized projects. And out of those, it ranked number 1 for negative left, or out of all our signalized intersections, it ranked number 1 for negative left turns offset. The other top 11 were for other improvements besides the negative left turn offset. So this is from our internal ranking, it's our top priority. I believe it came out to a ranking, I don't have it right in front of me at this moment, 56, if I remember correctly, out of the 78 total points possible for maximum score in the top out of the first tier. That's all I have for this one. If there's any questions. Like I said, it had the BC ratio is 27.2 to 1.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron on this project application? All right, hearing none, we can go ahead and go to your second project, the Santan Vista Trail Crossing.
Thank you. This one is another one that's kind of different style of project. This one we're looking to install a hawk at the intersection at Ray and Santan Vista. This trail network is a fairly large trail network that goes north and south. Right now, crossing Ray is cumbersome. There's quite a few people that do it. However, it's not safe. We have our understanding is the number of the number of incidents is fairly low, including involving pedestrians, due to the safety issue. Most pedestrians will not cross here. They'll just turn around and not go here. So this really will help build that network. There are those that are crossing. So it really, the hawk will, as Margaret showed a bit ago, that 55% reduction in the pedestrian crashes. There are a lot of, this isn't one of those areas that has the near misses. It doesn't have the hard data showing that incidents have been happening, but complaints have been called that it is a scary area. We had 2 years ago, we did a consultant-led analysis of all our crossings, looking at ranking them for safety for all our unsignalized crossings. This was ranked 10th out of those. So we've been making progress on all the other ones and are striving to make progress on this one as well to improve the safety here. That ranking looked into similar to our crash. We actually used that prior to that ranking system as kind of a rough outline to begin with. The ranking system you saw that we're using before on our roadways. Looking at crash speeds, the number of lanes, and potential options for improvements, what things can be done here to improve it, and the impact those improvements will have. And this one has a cost benefit ratio of 9.9 to 1, so almost 10. We're requesting 342,000. Thank you. Any questions for this one?
Any questions from committee members on the Santan Vista Trail Crossing project? All right, Aaron, thank you. We can move on to Gilbert then.
That was Gilbert.
I'm sorry, Glendale. My apologies. Tony Abo.
I am here. Okay. The first one that we have is the street lighting along Olive Avenue, and that's between 59th and 67th. This was part of a RSA that was done in the corridor. Let me just give a little bit of background. The speed limit is in this area is 40 miles an hour. The roadway carries, based on our 2020 counts that we had conducted, about 33,000 vehicles per day. As you can see on the north side, we do have Glendale Community College. On the south side, we have predominantly predominantly is going to be multifamily and residential homes. A little bit further south of the multifamily, and in the southeast, right at the 59th Avenue intersection, there's some commercial activity. There's a Starbucks up there. There is the lighting here at best is very sporadic. There are utility lines on both sides. Some of the utility poles do have some light fixtures mounted on it, but like I said, it's a hit and go, so there's not a continuous lighting along the corridor. Now we have a lot of folks that are coming out of the apartment complex and going to the school, and I say the apartment complex, all the residential housing on the south going to the school. So there are a lot of crossings. When I first got to Glendale, I knew there was one fatal that occurred at I believe it was the 61st Avenue intersection. So, and the debrief on that was, the driver did not see the pedestrian. So we are looking at, like I said, we are looking at, supplemental or putting lights on both sides, enhancing, the pedestrian visibility in the area. And so the request is for approximately 302,000. 52,000 will be going into design. Basically the BC ratio is 27-1. There were a total of 815 crashes in the area, and like I said, when you start looking at the demographics, for the area, basically there's a high number of disabled people in the area, and the poverty levels are also, higher than usual. The people with no vehicles also a little bit, higher than the usual. And you're seeing the two numbers because there's on the north and south side of Glendale Avenue, Olive Avenue is a little bit different. So, so that's kind of pretty much, the concern that we have. Like I said, it was, the findings did come out of an RSA that was conducted by MAG, and that team was led by Lee Engineering. So, any questions that you guys have on this one? Questions, comments, concerns?
Tony, this is Martin.
Yes, sir.
Hi. My one question was, when we were reviewing this, why didn't you combine this with the other application you had? It's in the same corridor and they go hand in hand together. It almost seems like you shouldn't be doing one without the other, and it should have been one application.
And
I know I know that's a general question. You might want to wait till the following application to kind of answer that, but I've kind of driven that and been in that area as well, and it is kind of hit and miss, and you can kind of see it, but it almost seemed like those two projects should be combined as one project.
And I do agree, but at the same time, if one project didn't make it, I didn't want, both projects to go down the, down the drain on that. But I do see you make a very valid point. But our thought was like, if, we didn't know how much funding was going to be available, and, out of out of the two, I think the lighting in that corridor is really, more of a necessity in my estimation. So, but good point. I do appreciate that comment.
All right, thank you, Martin. Any more questions from committee members? If not, we can go on to the second Glendale project.
The second Glendale project is going to be the traffic signal reconstruction at the intersection of 61st Avenue and Olive. Basically, I won't go, well, I mean, the speed limit, we've already talked about that, 40 miles an hour, the volume's 33,000. The issue that the RSA team found, and we have known about this also, is that we only have one signal indication. This is one of the major entrances into the school. There's no high visibility crosswalks. We would like to, better align the legs on the north side with the south side of the intersection. And so basically the request for this project is for 200,000 for the replacement of the signal. About 50,000, a little under 50,000, will be going for our design match. The BC ratio was 31-1 on this one. There was a total of 92 crashes at the intersection itself. So there is, like I say, high transit ridership along the south of Olive. So there are a lot of people crossing, and like I said, it is the major signalized intersection into the main intersection at the school. One of the faculty did reach out to us initially a while back also, and even I think expressed that concern to the RSA team, that even though they live across the street, they really drive into the school, and that's a sad part, because they did not feel safe crossing at that intersection. So with that noted, like I said, the demographics are the same as I indicated on my last one, and like I said, I do agree with Martine on this one. Maybe this should have been combined with the previous one, and to have it as one project. So, any comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Do we want to go? Okay. Do we want to go to the next one?
Can you see that, Tony?
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. The Glendale and 53rd Avenue and Camelback intersection. This is one that on the south side of the curb line is the city of Phoenix. The city of Glendale has the road itself, Camelback Road, from the south curb line to the north. When I first got here to Glendale a couple of years ago, there was a pedestrian that was hit crossing the road at this location. For the people that don't know, the roadway is 2 lanes in each direction and a continuous left turn lane. There is no median refuge. There are bus stops on both sides. There's a plasma center located right off of 53rd Avenue, and there's a lot of pedestrian activity crossing the road at that location. So we're asking for the placement of a hawk. Initially, I looked at trying to. We did as part of our efforts increase the size of all the pedestrian signing, but we knew that alone will not help enhance pedestrian safety. We did do a pedestrian count and had Wood Engineering do a hawk study for us, and and to no surprise, it did meet the warrants for the placement of a hawk, and so. In discussions also with Carl, he didn't recommend that we go with anything else like an RRFB because of the width of the road and how effective those RRFBs. That was going to be sort of our first attempt of enhancing pedestrian safety, but we backed off and we said, let's wait till there is some funding. So like I said, there is a large residential area on the south, and there is there is manufacturing, also commercial on the north side. And so we're asking for about 375,000 on this one. 110 will be the design and the local match. The BC ratio on this one is 16-1, and that's sort of in a I know there's the total crashes are not that much in the area. They're relatively low, but when you have that many pedestrian crashes, I think one has to look at it a little bit closer, and that drove us to submit this application. Any comments, concerns? One thing I didn't mention as far as the demographics go, the poverty is above the region level. The people with no vehicles in this area is also way above the region average, as well as the minorities, in the area. So I do apologize. I skipped over that real quick. So those are some factors that we hope that the region partners will look at it and help us at least, gain some support for this project. It does affect, like I said, both not only Glendale, but also it does affect the citizens of the city of Phoenix on this one. So it's sort of one of those, even though we are sponsoring the project, it does affect two agencies.
Any questions for Tony on 53rd and Camelback Hawk? All right, hearing none, we can move on to Peoria. Brandon Forey, would you kindly unmute?
Thank you, Margaret. So the location that Peoria is submitting this year is 75th Avenue and Thunderbird left turn offset median improvements. This is very similar to our application last round at 91st Avenue and Thunderbird, just a couple miles to the west. So as I said, this is a project that would include pulling back the median bullnoses about 50 to 75 feet on all four legs of the intersection on the approaches to provide a strong positive offset for all four of those legs, and to modify the median on the northbound approach to the south leg of the intersection, which that is an unfortunate design leftover, kind of a residual item from an HSIP project several years ago. But the design is such that as you're driving northbound in the #1 lane, you actually have to veer and kind of brake a little bit to the right fairly abruptly to avoid hitting the bullnose itself. It's a very unfortunate design that we'd really like to get corrected as well. This project does address the safe roads element and all 6 principles of the safe system approach. It does have a BC ratio of 24.3-1. And the location was identified and prioritized based on the top intersections in Peoria with fatalities and serious injury left turn crashes. So it's actually the first intersection that came up the highest priority that had not already been modified with the median bullnoses or did not have protected dual left turns. So it's protected permissive single left turns and with median bullnoses that had not yet been modified. So this is part of a systemic approach that Peoria is taking to provide positive offsets, especially along this corridor. As you see from the notes up there, you see the percentage of residents that 65 years and older is 24%. It's a bit higher than the regional average of 15%, but Thunderbird in general, there are a lot of medical uses and facilities along Thunderbird, and we do see a lot of older drivers in this corridor in particular. It's also worth noting that the disabled percentage at 13% is just a little bit over the regional average of 11.3, but we know the activity in this area on a more personal basis. We have seeing impaired residents that have reached out to us. We've installed APS devices at those signals. We've actually gone out in the field to work with several individuals to find their walking paths, to figure out where they need to go and to work with them to identify the lowest conflict walking routes to get to their destination. So it's a little more personal for us than just a number on the screen when it comes to pedestrians in particular with disabilities. The number of crashes in this location is overall for the 5-year period is 148, 47 of those. So about a third of those crashes would potentially be affected by this project. The thing that's a little bit surprising about the crashes when we look through the crash reports is how many of them happen in broad daylight with no contributing factors noted on the police report. And that's a bit of a surprise for us, but we actually watch the crashes too on our CCTVs. We watch daily operations, near misses when we catch them, but we also watch most of the crashes that occur. And the thing that's surprising to us is how many crashes seem to occur for no reason at all. A vehicle turns left in front of a through vehicle, when from the perspective of the camera, it looks like there is absolutely no concern at all. And that's where this element of pulling the bullnoses back is so important, to provide those positive offsets to the greatest degree possible to give a better sight distance, particularly for older pedestrians and older motorists and motorists with maybe slower reaction times, to give them the best chance of clearing the intersection, making that left turn without any incident. Something else that we don't have reflected in our stats. So this is, I will note, this is anecdotal only from observations of the CCTV footage. But many of those crashes, like I said, they occur, but we're not really sure why they occur. But improving that positive offset, it makes it easier to make the left turn. And we are speculating that when a motorist doesn't have to divide their attention in so many different directions, that they are able to see their surroundings a little more clearly. So if you're making a left turn and you're not focusing 90 to 95% of your attention to see if you can just clear the intersection without getting hit by a through vehicle, you may be more able to see pedestrians in the crosswalk.
Brandon?
Yes.
That's a great point, but your 5 minutes are up. Want to make sure and leave enough time for the other presenters.
Absolutely.
Can we get any questions from committee members that you might have?
Hey, Margaret, can I donate some of my time to back to Brandon? I'm just kidding.
No, you were right on the button there, Tony, so you don't really have anything to give. But that's very thoughtful of you. Any questions for Brandon on this project? All right, thank you, Brandon. I understand we have Maylin from the City of Phoenix is going to be providing presentations on the Phoenix projects.
Yes. Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Mylan Penkiewicz. I'm with the Street Transportation Department in the City of Phoenix. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the first project I wanted to describe was 43rd Avenue and Butler Drive. This is one that's right at the edge of Glendale and Phoenix, although the right-of-way is for the City of Phoenix. At this location, we have 45-mile-per-hour arterial 43rd Avenue with bus ridership. And we have heard from the public concerns about this location. It's currently an unsignalized crosswalk, and just this year we had a pedestrian crash where our team had to respond to the call of residents living around the area that ended up with body parts from the person that was hit in the rear yard. So it's not the first time that we hear that this location needs signalization due to the speed and the width of the road and the number of lanes. We have 2 times the average of no vehicle households, and almost a quarter of the population lives in poverty. So we are addressing the fatal pedestrian crash at this location, and just trying to provide a safer crossing for the public. And it's a project that also benefits Glendale residents. Any questions?
Thank you, Maylin. If there are any questions from committee members, we can go ahead and move on to Fifth Avenue and Osborne Hot Crossing.
Yes. So this location is closer to the core of the City of Phoenix, and it is a location that has apartment buildings on the south side and a grocery store, Safeway, on the north side. It's also an unsignalized crosswalk. We have had a fatal pedestrian crash that occurred during the day. It was a hit and run crash, so there isn't a lot of information regarding that crash. We have a lot of no vehicle households, so about 1/3 of the people rely on transit or walking or other modes to move around, and 1/4 of the population lives in poverty. The speed limit for Osborne at this location is 35 miles per hour.
Any questions for Maylene on the Fifth Avenue Osborne Hot Crossing? Hearing none, we'll move on to Greenway Parkway and 25th Street.
So this is a location from City of Phoenix that we've also heard a lot from residents that they want to have signalized. There is multifamily homes in the north side, and there is a Walgreens and other uses like Family Dollar on the south side. People are not really going over to Cave Creek to cross the road. They are just using that intersection, and because of that geometry of the road, there's a vertical curve, and the speed in Greenway Road, which is 40 miles per hour, we feel that rather than placing a hawk here, the signal is a full signal. There is a better option. Right now, this is an unmarked, unsignalized crosswalk, and we've had several crashes at this location. In general, Greenway Roadway with the vertical curve tends to pose some challenges for us in terms of speed and in terms of getting people to drive the appropriate speed limit. So we feel that a full traffic signal is a better solution for this location. We have about 1/3 of the population at this location living in poverty, and 1/4 of the population is disabled in some way. Does anyone have any questions about this location?
I have a couple. I was curious, do you have kind of rough ped counts at all for here? I know you said that most of them were crossing here versus going to the signal. But I was wondering with that and the question of, have you considered doing kind of wayfinding signs to encourage people to use the signal with it only being about 650 feet away?
Well, that would require us to find a way to get people to actually walk all the way to the signal, and we haven't found that those signs are particularly effective. We have done some counts at this location several years ago, and we saw a substantial number of people crossing. It's not as high as it's in other locations, but it's not insignificant either.
All right, thank you, Erin. Any further questions regarding Greenway Parkway and 25th Street for Maylin?
Yeah, this is John Wilt, the city of Buckeye. I actually live about 1.5 miles east of here, and I drive this route on a regular basis. And there are people who randomly cross the 6-lane roadway at that location that's identified. And traffic does back up in the afternoon from Cave Creek Road through 28th Street or 25th Street, partway around the curve sometimes. So, I mean, it is a busy area, and it is not that safe for pedestrian to cross. I don't know if a signal that close to Cave Creek. I already don't like the fact that I wait so long going east-west to get my son from charter school. But yeah, I would agree something probably needs to occur there. I just don't know if a signal is the right answer, but something needs to happen.
Thank you. Yes, what we have observed, we usually do a full corridor study. We wouldn't just look at one location when we take cameras. So we see where people are crossing the most. And we do find that the great majority of people are actually crossing at 25th Street. And unfortunately, when it comes to pedestrian safety, sometimes we do have to sacrifice the comfort of drivers who are already comfortable in their vehicles versus, having pedestrians that are crossing at locations where it's not the safest for them.
All right.
Hi, this is Martin Lucero with the City of Surprise. Just in general, have you taken a look at that corridor to kind of see if there's other access management issues or just a full kind of North Las Vegas approach that you could take where you kind of put a hardscape down the center to kind of help visually give the cue to prevent those random crossings? The only concern I have is I've seen it in past where other corridors have been in the valley, at least in the Central Valley, have utilized, pedestrian crossings, and, it appeared to be an appropriate location, but it didn't stop the random crossings. It just encouraged more random crossings in other locations because it kind of gave them, that feel of, oh, well, it's safe in the sense of, from the pedestrian standpoint, and then, adjustments had to be made later on. And so I was just kind of wondering, have you taken a look at the possibility of channelizing it and putting up, some of that pedestrian barriers to kind of help facilitate that movement to the locations where you feel is the most appropriate?
So I will let Carl answer the first part of the question because I'm not familiar with any study like that. But I know that whenever we do place infrastructure that benefits pedestrians and we see a clear pedestrian attractor, we do try to work with the businesses to align those front doors or to create paths to the front doors rather than barriers, because I think a lot of those random crossings happen when people, especially with Walgreens and CVSs and uses like that for some reason have a wall at their front door and they are just planned for vehicular access, that people will take the vehicular route and walk to cross across and just enter through the driveway. So we try to do our best to work with businesses and explain what the need is. And sometimes they helped us make those openings that channelize people better. But as far as the first part of the conversation or the question, Carl, do you know if we have looked at any of that? I know for this location that they use and the attractor is really clear, but in high schools and other locations where we see random crossings, we have applied those barriers. Do you have additional feedback, Carl?
Yes, this is Carl here. Thank you for the question, Martine. So this location specifically, we did kind of see that most of the traffic was still kind of going to that Walgreens, even if they kind of randomly crossed. So more than anything, we were trying to get a location of safe crossing at this site. Where we have done more of the pedestrian fencing and stuff, more often has been around high schools and items. One item to note that we have found that we definitely need to change is anywhere where we end those fences, you have to provide some kind of crossing. We have several locations throughout the city where, you know, we put in fencing to kind of say, hey, go here, but oftentimes the fencing stops at kind of the beginning of the left turn channelization. And what we find is a lot of the students where people are crossing right at the very edge of the fence, even though it's like 150 feet at most to the actual crossing type aspect. So in our evaluation, we didn't feel that was the correct procedure, at least at this moment for this site.
Thank you. That answers the question. I was just trying to make sure that we didn't, create additional randomization, and you did take a look at appropriate other treatments. So thank you.
These are really great questions. I appreciate this. And any additional? If not, Maylin, we can move on to Van Buren and 33rd Avenue.
Okay, so this corridor from Van Buren, from 27th Ave, and a little bit past all the way to 35th Avenue, we do have a really big crash pattern. And what we find when we compare the counts that we take in Van Buren to other areas of the city where we're taking counts is that they are a lot greater and sometimes double or triple what we see in other parts of the city. We have almost 50% of the population living in poverty. A third of the homes don't own vehicles. So what we do see in terms of bus ridership and just walking in general is that proportion is a lot greater. A quarter of the population here has some sort of disability. So this is a location that along Van Buren, there are a lot of different uses, and we see people crossing many of these intersections. And this is one where we have had pedestrian crashes that we want to be able to address. We wanted to be able to address them in the best way possible. And what we find is that this is a skewed intersection and that a signal would probably solve other issues that we have in terms of angle crashes at this location. So we do feel that a signal is a better location or a better solution for this particular intersection because of that skew. We do have, and I think I mentioned this, high bus ridership. I think out of all of the locations that we've put our applications in, this is one of the highest. And what we do see consistently when we do take video counts is a lot of activity occurring. So a signal not only fixes the skewed intersection issue, but it also provides the 4 crosswalks for people to be able to use all 4 of them. And by the way, the speed limit here in Van Buren is 35 miles per hour.
Thank you, Maylin. Any questions for Maylin on Van Buren and 33rd Avenue?
Quick question, Aaron with Gilbert. With both these signals, I assume it's based off of, I shouldn't assume. Was a signal warrant analysis completed at all, or is it based off of crash as part of the warrant?
Carl, did we conduct a signal warrant analysis at this location?
Hi, Aaron. No, we did not actually do a signal warrant analysis. Based on our spacing of signals, there's several crosswalks in this general area. This location, based on the signal itself and kind of the spacing, made sense for what we have in this area. But as far as an official signal warrant, I do not believe we conducted at this location.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? All right, thank you, Maylin, for joining us today. We can move on to Queen Creek. I believe we have Marshall Regal from Queen Creek to provide that presentation. Is that accurate, Mohammed? Mohammed Youssef?
Oh, Margaret, this is Marshall. And
Okay.
yeah, yes, that is accurate.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, so thank you, Chairman and members of the committee for letting Queen Creek make their presentation for a number of projects to hopefully bring some consistency throughout the town. The first project, probably the most simple one, is a request to complete the remaining signal heads throughout the town with the installation of the reflective tape on the backing plates. There was a very well-known safety study done many years ago in Scottsdale. They had an intersection at Hayden and Thomas that had a high crash rate. And just by the simple application of the reflective tape, they had a huge reduction in accidents there. And the town, as a standard application, uses reflective tape on all their backplates, on all their signalized intersections. And even though the town is quite new in terms of transportation infrastructure, we do have some legacy locations, possibly things that were brought into the system from other agencies that lack that reflective tape. So the hope for this project is to complete all those orphan locations and have a consistent appearance to all our signal system heads throughout the town. So, like I said, one of the things we've seen from accidents data is that we can reduce the rear end crashes through the use of this thing, through the use of the reflective tape. We're looking at 260 signal heads throughout town. So it's about a $500 per head cost to make this improvement. So it's a pretty effective use of money to reduce these accidents. And so the total request, as you can see, is $148,000, $21,000 local match, about a 24-to-1 benefit cost ratio, addressing 140 crashes. So that's the information I have to present on this. Any questions?
I did with Aaron with Gilbert again. You're tired of hearing me. Question on those crashes. If I remember looking at your calculations, it looked like it was more of a whole corridor instead of just addressing adjacent to the signals. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe that's correct. We actually spent quite a bit of time looking at this crash data with MAG together and made some corrections to the numbers presented.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Any additional questions for Marshall on the retroreflective tape application? Hearing none, Marshall, we can move on to the flashing yellow arrow signal cabinet upgrade.
Yes, thank you. So the project here is we have the infrastructure in place in terms of the correct mast arm lengths at all these signals that are identified. What we have run into is, again, we don't have the proper number of channels in the control cabinet to be able to make the signal controller function to give us that time of day protected turns. And so this project is looking to upgrade just the cabinets to give us the number of channels needed at these 13 intersections to allow us to implement the time of day protected lefts. And these sites are primarily, as you can see from the graphic, on Rittenhouse, which is really a heavily commercial corridor, as well as a lot of recent residential and multifamily developments going in along this area. And so this, as we know, the time of day protected gives you the safety when there's not gaps in the high demand periods, which happens quite frequently along Rittenhouse and these other identified intersections. And so we're asking for the funds to change out those cabinets. It's a $634,000 request to the 13 intersections, addressing 104 crashes. And like the other project, this will bring our capabilities town-wide up to the same level, giving us the ability then to implement the time of day protected lefts as they occur, as the need arises. Any questions?
What type of signal heads do you have out there? Will you need to change up the signal heads? And if so, is there a budget source for those improvements?
I apologize.
No,
Who's asking the question?
Sorry, Aaron with Gilbert.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Go ahead, Marshall. Sorry.
No, we won't have to change out the signal heads. We use the bimodal lamps that allow us to maintain a 4-signal head that's out there. So we found a very efficient way to be able to do time of day protected without having to change out the heads.
This is Carl with City of Phoenix. Question for you, Marshall. So I read this project, is it just upgrading the signal cabinets, or will you implement flashing yellow arrows?
It is to upgrade the cabinets, which will allow us to put in the flashing yellow arrows if the if we need to have the time of day protected.
So anticipation is at a future date, you would implement the flashing yellow arrow, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
But we are finding with the growth rate in town that we are more and more looking at during the peak periods of running the protected cycle. And Rittenhouse clearly is one of the major transportation corridors in town. We just completed the upgrade of that road all the way down to Combs. So now it's at full build out from edge to edge of town now. So we really see the need to be able to do time of day protected along that main corridor in short order.
This is Brandon Forey with City of Peoria. I just kind of wanted to kind of piggyback with Carl's question, because I see it's almost like a potential for safety improvements project. So why wasn't the choice to select a number of intersections along that corridor for the full improvement, the new cabinets as well as the flashing yellow arrows, or at least whatever modifications were needed in preparation for that. I guess I just wanted to drill in on that question a little bit more, why it wasn't a little more focused on the actual safety enhancement rather than the potential for the safety enhancement.
Well, the only thing lacking that keeps us from implementing the time of day detected is the lack of channels in the cabinet. So once we have that capability, we can implement time of day protected signals.
Okay, so it's purely a matter of staff time to then go through and make those additional modifications. Is that after these cabinets are switched out? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, again, some really good questions. Thank you very much. If there aren't any additional, Marshall, we can move on to converting HPS to LED townwide.
Okay, thank you. We have, with all our new intersections we're building now, we are putting in LED roadway lighting at the intersections. But we have, as I've said already, a number of legacy locations where we have the high pressure sodium. And so this project will complete and bring all the signalized intersections in town up to the LED standard. So we will have uniform lighting throughout the town. And as everybody knows, the lighting capacity and capabilities for the LED lights makes for a much more illuminated intersection, which provides a lot more safety, particularly for pedestrians who are crossing the intersections in the nighttime time. So this project looks to complete that process for the town and bring our lighting standards uniform throughout all the intersections. As you can see, we've done a lot of local screening. We get a lot of complaints, or we get a lot of input, I should say, from the public about these inconsistent lighting situations. And so we're looking to address that, as well as the safety it brings to the pedestrians and the bikes using the crosswalks. We are migrating now from a rural architectural environment to a more urban area. And so we really want to bring up these intersections that are in that transition mode, where there's a lot of high speed vehicles that are coming in from the agricultural type areas into the urban areas. And so we really want to bring up our lighting standards in those outlying areas. So you can see from the map, we have a lot of these intersections that are in those outlying areas that are transitioning from rural agricultural to urban. And again, as you can see, Rittenhouse is one of our legacy roads that we're trying to upgrade and bring it up to current standards, as well as our main north-south corridor on Ellsworth Road, which brings in a great many of crosstown travelers. We have about 100,000 people in the Santan Valley, and there's only 2 ways to get to town: Ironwood, Rittenhouse, or Ellsworth. And so we're really trying to concentrate a lot of our efforts on improving those areas for safety, and this improving of the illumination at the intersections is one of our goals. As you can see below, the ask is $191,000, with 61 crashes being addressed. And with that, open up for questions.
All right, thank you, Marshall. Not hearing any questions on this particular. We can go ahead and move on to your last presentation for townwide speed feedback signs.
Thank you. This is another program that we're trying to bring more consistency throughout the town. As we continue to grow, we find that we have some areas in need that need to be backfilled. As you can see from this map, we have 10 speed feedback signs that are near intersections. This kind of goes back again to what I was pointing out earlier as we transition from a rural agricultural to an urban area. We have a lot of vehicles that come in from those areas at high speeds. And so we have found that these feedback signs really do raise awareness to these drivers and kind of bring the temperature down in terms of their excessive speeding conditions. In addition, we have 12 locations where we have a need for these feedback signs near schools. We've also found that the speed feedback signs near schools help a great deal in reducing the speeding conditions and the excessive speeds that can occur near schools, particularly in the middle part of the day. And so we're looking to address those with deploying more of these speed feedback signs. It's a $290,000 request, 22 locations, addressing 133 crashes that have been observed over the years. And so we've gone through and developed these locations through public input and complaints and observations, and through conversations with the schools. And so that's how we chose these locations and developed the project. If there's any questions, I'll entertain those.
Hi, Marshall. This is Carl from the City of Phoenix. Question for you. It sounded like you do have several existing speed feedback signs, and I was curious how you guys are, what kind of data is it making a difference? Are people actually slowing down?
I can tell you intuitively that they definitely make a difference. Even internally, I've had people kind of say, they're not worth the investment. But I can tell you, I've been out there, I've observed personally, but I don't have any actual data to answer that question. But I can tell you from my personal observation that they definitely do make a difference. And the input we got from the neighborhoods where we've installed these is that they were appreciative and that they also noticed that they made a difference. And like I said, it's kind of unique in Queen Creek because we have a lot of these farmland and agricultural stretches, and then you come into brand new subdivisions in an urbanized area. So I found them to be very effective in that respect.
I could maybe a follow-up question. Just curious if you work with your police to help enforce kind of where those signs are, or if there's any coordination regarding police and the existing signs.
Yeah, when we get, because we're transitioning now from service by the sheriff to the police department, so it's actually a pretty good timely question, Carl, because we're having a lot of interaction with the police now, and they're very interested with our new ATS-TM system we're putting in terms of acquiring that kind of data. So the answer to your question is yes, we do work with them. When we get complaints from the neighbors about excessive speeding, we go out and do speed studies, and we do our best with our available funding to address those by putting in these devices. So we do get feedback from the police in terms of what their observations are and what they think are the hot zones, if you will, for speeding.
Thank you for the information.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we got back from them is that what they notice is that people come in from the farmlands and the rural areas, and they just don't understand. They need to throttle back and reduce their speed.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So if there are any additional questions, that completes the presentations for the roadway safety program projects. We had planned to now take a 30-minute break. We have a much larger volume of applications this time. If you could please, if you have amendments to your evaluation, please send those to rsp@azmag.gov. As you see here on the screen, we will go ahead and take a break until 11:14. And we'll see you all back here with the results for further discussion.
Surprise City Hall is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For the health and safety of our employees and visitors, physical distancing is encouraged and masks are recommended at city facilities, except at the Surprise
Okay, it's actually 11:15. We received a couple of evaluation sheets towards the very last end of the time. So Mohammed and Chris are still working through that, but they should be done here any minute. I'm gonna take a quick look at our participation really quick, just to make sure that everybody, or that we still have quorum. So if you bear with me for just a minute. It looks like we do have quorum. So we'll just wait for them. But while we're waiting for them, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. While we're waiting, I just wanted to express my appreciation for the evaluations, and not just that, but I received phone calls from several of you, and I really take all of your input to heart, and very much appreciate your feedback. Since the inception of this program, we've been trying to improve the process, not just the application process, but also the evaluation process, to not only provide a valuable evaluation, but also so that we can fund valuable safety projects. So it's not by any stretch of the imagination perfect. And we have a few months before we start thinking about the 2024 call for projects. So I would encourage those of you who had concerns or comments to participate in the working group that we have already established, again, since the inception of this program, to further refine the process. So one of the things that we're going to want to think about moving forward is, and we're kind of right now with the regional transportation plan, we are kind of in a wait mode right now, because it's really going to depend on what gets, what funding is proposed in that, as well as obviously how the voters are going to respond to that. So what we're hoping is that we're going to be getting an extension to this program and potentially more funding. So instead of $2 million a year, we might have additional funds to add on to that. So as we move forward into that, we're really going to have to pay close attention and really do what we can to make sound enhancements to this program. So I just wanted to offer that to all of you. And again, thank you for your work on this evaluation. I know it wasn't easy. I will offer that it wasn't easy for the working group to make the enhancements that we made for this round. So again, just my appreciation and to all of you.
Margaret, if I could ask one question. I know the MAG and the region is working on kind of a future regional funding, and quite a bit of that hopefully is coming towards kind of safety. Do we have any ideas to the amount that safety specifically might be able to get out of that? I know that's kind of what's the crystal ball say question.
Well, let me make sure that so the proposed scenarios, and Carl, I recognize that you weren't at our last meeting. We had Audra Kester Thomas come and give a presentation to the committee on kind of an update on where we're at with that. And I believe over the, just to kind of recap, the recommended proposal that came from the policy committees was that MAG look at the 25-year as opposed to a 20-year funding program. And they had a dollar amount for safety, and I believe it was a $250 billion over that 25-year period. Patrick, is your recollection different than mine? And again, I would caution that is a proposal that's going to be going to the legislature and to, eventually the voters.
I think it's probably not germane to speak on it at the moment. What we can do, Margaret, though, is we can certainly provide some links to the committee members so that they can review the plan itself. And then also we can provide some links that kind of show both the programs and projects, the phasing, the amounts. Those items have already gone through regional council, have been approved. The formal adoption of the RTP is going to be for consideration with regional council, hopefully on December 1st. So at this point, I'd say just kind of hang tight, but we'll get you guys some information out to the committee members.
The other link that you might take a look at, Carl, is the presentation that she provided is posted on the event page for the September committee meeting.
Thank you for that feedback.
Hey, Margaret, this is Chris. I believe Mohammed is ready to
yes,
whenever you are.
Okay, so let me stop sharing. Okay, I'm not sharing, so you should be able to share your screen, Mohammed. Okay, so if you
can you see the screen?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see the screen.
Okay.
So what you're going to need to do, Mohammed, is capture the amounts in the E column.
Okay.
Just start with the Glendale, the number one project up top. No.
Okay.
Just put your cursor in that cell and just go down. I can't see it, but you're going to need to capture as many up to 100 and.
Okay, let me just do this. I just from here. See, yeah. So basically, when I capture up to Glendale, as you can see, we got an amount of 1857601.00, which is coming just around the number we have available, 1857818.
So that's
so that's
how many projects is that, or 1 through?
So that's basically from 8 projects, basically.
1 through 8.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could, Mohammed, make a separating line between the number 8 and number 9 project. And if you could just hide the questions and comments, just so we can potentially zoom in a little bit and see this a little bit better.
Yep. So the bold ones, as you can see, the bold ones for the FY 2023 RSP, these are the one that ranked from 1 to 8 within our funding allocations. As you can see, the total amount for all of these projects resulted in this amount. The amount we have available is this. And these are the projects which are coming below the funding availability.
So at this point, is there any questions or discussion from committee members?
Margaret, this is Brandon. I guess, would it be appropriate to do a roll call to make sure everyone is back?
Oh, absolutely. I did a check based on the, but yes, thank you very much. So when I call your name, please indicate that you are still logged into the meeting. Carrie Wilcoxon, Shane Kiso,
Still here.
Ward Stanford,
Yes, here.
John Willett,
Present.
Raymond Home,
Still here.
Nick Russo,
Here.
Chris Salas,
Present.
Aaron Pinkerton, Tony Ebo,
Present.
Matthew Reeg, Ben Bitter,
Here.
Mazin Mirotovich,
Here. Here.
Ryan Hudson, Brandon Forey,
Present.
Carl Langford,
Present.
Tara Harmon, Mohammed Youssef,
Here.
David Smith,
Here.
Martin Lucero, Kathy Hollow,
Here.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm here. It was muted on the screen.
okay. Adrian Ruiz, Jeff King,
Here.
Robert Gray, Captain David Cates,
Present.
and Alberto Gutier. So we
Aaron Pinkerton with Gilbert is here as well. I had to
Okay,
jump out my yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. I was gonna ring on you again, as well as Matthew Reeg.
It froze for me. I had to jump out, so I'm not sure if he's having the same problem.
Okay, but it does look like we have everybody back. And still hold quorum. Okay, so thank you, Brandon, for that.
Hey, Margaret, this is Raymond Huang with Chandler.
Yes.
Just want to get a quick shout out to our great friend in Glendale, Tony, just become a grandfather. Just want to shout out for that. And congratulations, Tony.
Thanks, Raymond.
Congratulations, Tony. So does anybody have any discussion or questions? on the list of projects before we move to action?
Hey, Margaret, Shane here, City of AJ. Can you remind me maybe quickly, I guess how the scoring rubric works here? Because I'm thinking there's some of these that have higher weighted, factors on the final score. And I raised that question just because I see Carefree rated for evaluator score pretty high, but is down towards the bottom.
Right. So what we are doing this year, that's a great question, Shane. Thank you. So the benefit cost ratio is added to the normalized crash rate. So you see in column K. And Mohammed, you might want to explain that. And then it was all of your evaluation scores were averaged and put into this evaluated into column L to make up the final score. So Mohammed?
Yeah, so basically this time we just use the normalized crash rate, as you can see here, instead of using the original crash rate, so that we can come to a level playing field in terms of the crash rates that's calculated by different agencies. So we basically use the normalized crash rate, we use the BC ratio, and then we use the evaluator score. By evaluator score here, we mean that we get the average of the all evaluator scores for a single project and then come up with this number. So then we basically take into account this evaluator score, this normalized crash rate, and the BC ratio to come up with our final score. And that's what you can see here after rounding. And that final score has been used to rank the projects in terms of how they're doing here. Does that answer your question, Shen?
Yeah, I think it does. I guess I'd be curious, maybe when the committee, evaluation committee work group works again, or just looking at how weighted they are, I guess. It just feels like the evaluating score was rated lower than I would have thought. So that's just the thought of mine as we move forward.
Okay.
So just as a reminder from I think it was our July committee meeting, we had outlined some of the enhancements that we made to the scoring and the evaluation. Last year, we had weighted the BC ratio, the crash rate, and the evaluator score. This year, we're not weighting the BC ratio, the crash rate, or the evaluator score.
Yes.
We're just normalizing the crash rate and using that added to the benefit cost ratio and the evaluator score.
So none of these matrix that were taken into consideration for coming up with the final score are basically weighted in this case, this year, unlike previous years.
Hi, it's Kathy. Mohammed, could you explain it? So crash rate is what was in the application, and then you normalized it based on, I'm sorry, what was it again?
So basically, we took into account all the crash rates that we received from all the applications, and then we basically normalized the crash rate based on the largest crash rate and the lowest crash rate that we got from the applications, and normalize each of the crash rate for each of the project. As you can see, the crash rate for this project originally submitted with the application was 1.5, but when we normalized it, it came back to 0.1. This is basically comparing the crash rate with all other projects that submitted applications.
Okay.
So in other words, your Olive Avenue, 59th to 67th Avenue had the highest crash rate.
That's why you can see they have a normalized crash rate of 1. And you see this one, 0.3, that was the not 0.3, I think 0.1. That was the lowest crash rate that was also taken into consideration for coming up with this normalized crash rate.
And then the BC ratio uses the regular crash rate because that's, you only get that out of the application, correct?
Yeah, the BC ratio is using only the crashes that were addressed by the countermeasures that was proposed in the applications. So yeah, that's basically coming to us from the application directly.
And those were the numbers that were indicated at the bottom of each presentation as crashes addressed. Those were the ones that were included in the benefit cost ratio.
And I just wanted to kind of confirm, it appears that it was weighted heavier to the quantitative versus the qualitative aspects of the applications. I don't have a dog in the fight. I just want to understand this for future applications if this is the way we're going to move forward. I just want to understand the thinking and the logic behind there just for future.
So basically, if you look into the final score, we basically added all these three metrics, like the BC ratio, the normalized crash rate, and the evaluator score. And while adding those, we didn't put any weight on any of these metric, not on this one, or this one. We just simply added those. But yeah, what you are saying is that the BC ratio scores seems to be higher for the project that are getting selected, and that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, so it's basically just the quantitative section of the BC. If you have a very high scoring BC ratio or quantitative identified project, then that will naturally be weighted higher than the qualitative of the evaluator. I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do we have any additional comments or questions?
Yes, Margaret, this is Brandon. I think I definitely wanted to go through this process and see how it played out. I'll be one of the first to volunteer to, if there's any follow-up efforts for a working group to look at this and talk about, if there's ideas for refinement, what worked, what didn't, what, we still have questions about, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like to volunteer for that future effort if that happens.
So absolutely, yeah. We're going to keep the established working group, which you are on, Brandon, but I would encourage anybody else who would like to participate in that to let me know. Or even if you just have ideas that you want to pass along offline, you can certainly do that at any time, and we can incorporate that feedback into our working group discussions in the future. All right, Mohammed,
I can unshare, right?
Yeah, you can stop sharing. All right, Mr. Chair, looks like we're ready to move on with the action.
Thank you, Margaret. So at this time, we would like to have a motion to recommend approval of those top 8 projects to be funded with the available MAG RSP funds for fiscal year 2023.
So moved. Martin Lucero, City Surprise.
Second, Brandon Forey, City of Peoria.
Sorry for the interruption, but I think members of the Transportation Safety Committee and Margaret also, I think there might be a correction that needs to happen to the not the ranking, but the amount that was allocated, because I think there was a wrong amount for one of the Glendale applications. So in that case, another project might fall off.
Okay, let me can you share, Mohammed?
You see?
Yes.
Okay, so basically what has happened is, as you can see in this project, this is not 30,644, but this should be 301 44. So now, as you can see, the total amount is coming this. So it might have to be, yeah. So in that case, only the top 7 projects are getting funded.
So what was the amount with those 8?
It was 2.1 million, as you can see.
Okay.
So with the 7 project, it comes to 1.75 million compared to 1.85 million that we have available.
So Mohammed, can I ask for that Glendale project, was that input from today or input from a week ago when we first developed the master spreadsheet?
No, it was just a typo. From the very beginning, it was this amount actually. This value.
Okay.
If you look into the original application, so basically I just missed the 1 here. So it became 30,644, whereas it should be 301,644 dollars.
Okay. And can I ask you if you verified the amounts for the others?
I did actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so with this correction, are there any additional comments or questions?
Just additional comment that it's a Glendale project pushing out a Glendale project. So if Glendale has heartburn, then they can talk to themselves.
No, I think we're happy as it is. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mohammed.
Sure, I'll unshare now.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we do kind of need to revise the action because technically it's approved the list of the top 7 projects to be funded with the available funding for fiscal year 2023.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if I may, the
yes.
recommended, the action requested does not specifically state a number of projects. It just says recommend approval of a list of projects to be funded with the available MAG RSP funds in fiscal year 2023.
Mr. Chair, Margaret, just to clarify, the technical committee does not actually make the funding decisions. That'll start at TRC in December. So it is, to Margaret's point, the recommended action is just to approve the list of projects.
Thank you for that clarification. So I guess 3rd time's a charm. So we are requesting action to recommend approval of a list of projects to be funded with the available MAG RSP funds in fiscal year 2023. Could we get a new motion and second?
Move
From
to
the-
So
approve
moved,
as stated.
Martin Lucero.
Okay, I caught Martine as a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second, Mohammed Yusuf.
Thank you, Mohammed. So with the first and second, we do need to do a call for vote. Margaret, would you mind doing that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. When I call your name, please unmute and indicate your vote. Carrie Wilcoxon. Shane Kiso.
Go aye.
Ward Stanford.
Aye.
John Willett.
Aye.
Raymond Hong.
Aye.
Nick Russo.
Aye.
Chris Salas.
Aye.
Aaron Pinkerton.
Aye.
Tony Abbo.
Aye.
Matthew Reed.
Aye.
Woody Scouten. Ben Bitter.
Aye.
Mazin Maradovich.
Yeah, aye.
Ryan Hudson. Brandon Forey.
Aye.
Carl Langford.
Aye.
Tara Harmon. Mohammed Yusuf.
Aye.
David Smith.
Aye.
Martin Lucero.
Aye.
Kathy Hollow.
Aye.
Adrian Ruiz. Jeff King abstain.
Yes, ma'am, abstain.
Robert Gray. Captain David Cates.
Aye.
Alberto Gutier. All right, Mr. Chair, the motion passes with one abstention.
Thank you very much, Margaret, and thank you all for participating in this, our longer thing that we have most time. Our next item in the agenda is our reports by committee members. So I'd like to invite any members of the Transportation Safety Committee to report on ongoing safety-related project activities in their jurisdiction. Margaret, if you can just go ahead, use the roll call and ask if people have anything to report. That's probably the easiest way virtually.
Okay, sounds good. Shane Kiso, any report from Apache Junction?
Yeah, just one report. We are currently implementing a safety corridor, travel corridor along Ironwood in our new area of the city that we annexed here recently. So extends from Baseline Avenue down to the new SR 24 corridor to the south. So yeah, we hope to enforce traffic violations to a higher extent along this corridor just to help mitigate some of the severe traffic accidents that occur along that corridor with such the volume traffic that we have coming up that corridor. So that'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Ward Stanford, a report from Avondale?
Nothing to report here.
Okay. John Willett, report from Buckeye?
Nothing from Buckeye. Thank you.
Raymond Hong, report from Chandler?
Nothing to report from Chandler this time.
Thank you, Raymond. Nick Russo, report for El Mirage?
Nothing from El Mirage. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Salas, and any report from Florence? Chris Salas, report from Florence? Okay, Aaron Pinkerton, do you have a report from Gilbert?
Nothing for Gilbert at this time.
Thank you. Tony Abbo, report for Glendale?
None to report this time. Thank you.
Okay, Matthew Reed, report from Goodyear?
Nothing from Goodyear. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Bitter from Maricopa County. I just want to let you know that I did receive your the letter from your city. So Ben, it looks like you're going to be the regular participant on the safety committee. It looks like we all just got an alert. So welcome to the committee. Do you have any report from City of Maricopa?
Yeah, nothing from City of Maricopa. Thank you.
Thank you. Mazen, do you have a report for Maricopa County?
Nothing from McDowell today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mazen. We'll go next to Brandon Forey. Do we have a report from Peoria?
Nothing at this time, Margaret.
Okay. Carl Langford, report from Phoenix.
Yes, Phoenix does have something to mention. As many of you are aware, we have been working on a road safety action plan here in Phoenix. We are to the point where we will actually be having our first virtual, due to COVID and stuff, public meeting where we're going to the public and kind of explaining this to them and getting the public's comments and ideas and what we need to do to address safety. Several of you probably live within Phoenix and may be interested in attending. That is actually tonight at 6 p.m. virtually. If you are interested, you can go to phoenix.gov/streets/road safety. And again, that is tonight at 6. We encourage public invite to those to attend that. We're hoping for some good turnout and good information from the public on that. And then one other item to mention, here just after the Thanksgiving holiday, we will be turning on and activating our 70th Hawk here in the city. We have been rapidly installing many Hawks, several due to safety items. This one specifically is one of them. It was just a couple years ago where we installed our 50th Hawk throughout the city. That's all we have for a report.
Thank you, Carl. How about Muhammad Yusuf, report from Queen Creek?
Nothing to report from Queen Creek.
Thank you, Muhammad. David Smith, report from Scottsdale? Okay, Martin Lucero, do you have a report for Surprise?
Nothing to report from Surprise.
Thank you, Martin. Kathy Hollow, do you have a report for Tempe?
Not this time, thanks, Margaret.
Thank you. Jeff King, do you have anything to report out from FHWA?
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple things. We had a call for research center or resource center projects for 2022. We did put in for designing for bicycle safety, a complete streets workshop with a focus on policy and implementation, and a kinetic energy speed management workshop. I expect to hear back from them in the next couple weeks on which ones we're getting. I'm guessing we'll probably get all 3. And then also just a quick reminder, November 22nd from 11 to 1300 is the open webinar for the new updated proven safety countermeasures that Margaret had mentioned earlier. If anybody needs the link to that, I think it's been sent out several times. Just shoot me an email. I can send you the link to register for it. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Margaret.
Thank you, Jeff. And could you just briefly, I was wondering if you were going to mention this, but the new focus approach to safety, just really briefly, some of the minor change, some of the changes to that. And I know that we'll be discussing some of that at committee next year as well. So just thought you might want to mention that.
Yes, ma'am. So about a month ago, they pushed out the update to the focus approach to safety. As many of you recall, in the past, Arizona has been a focus state for all 3 focus areas, which were intersection, roadway departure, and pedestrian and bicycle. Pedestrian and bicycle were considered one focus area. Under the 2021 update, they separated pedestrian and bicycle and then added 2 cross-cutting areas related to speed management. And off the top of my head, I'm lost on the second one. Anyway, for Arizona, when they redid all the numbers and assigned the focus areas, the other thing they did is it used to be focus cities. And as you recall, Phoenix and Tucson were focus cities in the pedestrian and bicycle area. Now they changed it from focus city to MPOs. The results ended up, Arizona remains a focus state for intersection as well as pedestrian. in no longer a roadway departure focused state. For the MPOs, both MAG and PAG remain a focus area in intersection. MAG remains a focus area in pedestrian, not bicycle. And PAG has been taken off the list for pedestrian. So slight changes there. Margaret, do you want me to send you the updated information and link to the recording for that public webinar? And you could send it back out.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Absolutely. They have meetings that are some kickoff meetings. I attended the first one, the pedestrian focus state and region meeting last week. And I'd kind of like to get the other kickoff meeting under my belt. And then I was planning on having a future agenda item on that next year.
Yeah, sounds good. I don't think they've sent out the dates for the other areas yet, but I see them coming soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeff. Captain David Cates, any report from DPS?
Nothing to report from DPS today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you all for the information. Our next item on the agenda, does any member of the Transportation Safety Committee have topics or issues of interest that you would like to have considered for discussion at a future agenda meeting? If so, please go ahead and comment now, or you may also request to Margaret or myself via email at a future date. Hearing none at this time, thank you all for attending today. The next meeting of our Transportation Safety Committee will be held at 10 a.m. on the next year, Tuesday, January 25th of 2022, not in the past. And it again will be a virtual meeting unless otherwise notified at this time.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before you call adjournment, just really quick. As you all know, we will have a new chair starting in January. It will be Shane Kiso, who is elevated from the vice chair position. I also wanted to thank Carl Langford for his efforts and his leadership these past couple of years.
Thank you, Margaret. And with that, we will see you all in the next year. The meeting is now officially adjourned at 11:58. We did it on time.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, everybody.